Good afternoon, friends, family, faculty, staff, esteemed guests, and fellow graduates. My name is Travis Frederick Cabell, and on behalf of the class of 2024 Class Marshals, I am honored to welcome you all to Class Day. Class Day is when members of the graduating class and our families come together to honor members of HLS who have demonstrated a commitment to fostering, protecting, and supporting our community at the law school. On the eve of receiving our law degrees from Harvard Law School, I cannot think enough about what this moment means for each of us as individuals and for the members of our communities who have helped us get here. I am filled with gratitude and excitement as today marks a transitionary moment that is both an ending and a new beginning for all of the graduates. As I reflect on my time at law school, people often remind me to remember the person you were in your law school application. And none of us should forget that person, because those versions of ourselves serve as a reminder of where we started. However, the truth is that all of the graduates here with me today are different people. Our views have been shaped by various guest lecturers, providing legal services to communities in the greater Boston area and beyond, engaging in student activism, and most importantly, by learning from the perspective of our peers. Not only have we grown as people, but also as advocates. We have stronger views and convictions than we've ever had before. For the last 3 years, we sat in classrooms learning what the law is. However, our views and hopes for the law are only as stagnant or dynamic as we make them. History has shown us that through our profession, we help define both justice and injustice, and sometimes we get it wrong. The justice we seek tomorrow may differ entirely from what we believed we could accomplish before law school started. While I'm certain of the opportunities a Harvard Law degree will afford us as future policymakers, members of the bench, leading practitioners, academic, or following a different passion, in this next chapter, I hope we remember that learning doesn't end when we leave law school. Today calls for not only celebration, but also reflection. Ask yourself, in the face of hard decisions, did you account for those who did not have the power, the wealth, or the privilege to advocate for themselves? It is a privilege to have a law degree, but it is not enough to leave here and do good. We have to do better. I am looking forward to finding out who amongst us will meet this moment and every single moment that comes after this. Thank you. Now to introduce our first official speaker, Interim Dean John Goldberg, the Carter Professor of General Jurisprudence. Please join me in giving him a round of applause and welcoming him to the stage.
Thank you, Travis, and welcome everyone. It's great to be here to celebrate Harvard Law School class of 2024, our JDs, our LLMs, and our SJDs, and to recognize today's honorees. I'm delighted to be joined on stage by your class marshals and by the president of the Harvard Law School Association, Lindsay Breedlove, by the recipient of the Suzanne L. Richardson Staff Appreciation Award, Pam Bennett, by the recipient of the Albert M. Sachs Paul A. Freund Award for Teaching Excellence, Professor Christine Desan, by our Assistant Dean for Clinical and Experiential Education and Pro Bono Programs, Mary Bope, and by our Dean of Students, Stephen Ball. And I am especially delighted to welcome our Class Day speaker, U.S. Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland. Let's give them all a big round of applause. In a moment, we'll learn more about and also hear from our honorees, and we'll celebrate your classmates who are receiving awards. But before I turn the proceedings over to your class marshal Boletito, I want to take a moment to recognize you, the class of 2024. I'll be brief. I really just want to express my admiration and gratitude for all the work you've done to get to this moment. You have worked hard, really hard. You've put in hundreds of hours of class time, endured a few exams, written countless papers, notes, blog posts, briefs, and reports. You've mentored, counseled, and supported your fellow students. You've worked with faculty on cutting-edge research. You've skillfully represented clients, and you've generously donated your time to persons in need of assistance. And you have confronted a difficult world by advocating vigorously for causes that you hold dear. That's a lot. I am so proud to be here today to acknowledge all of this that you have done and to celebrate it. I could go on, but that's what tomorrow is for. So, without further delay, let me please turn things over to Boletito.
Good afternoon, class of 2024 and loved ones. My name is Bola Mitito Nimoshe Vinhua, Jumoke Morelake Precious Adatula, but some of you know me as Tito. And I am one of the class marshals for the class of 2024. Before I introduce our next speaker, I would like to take a moment for acknowledgements. First, I would like to recognize everyone here today to celebrate the class of 2024. Family, friends, and loved ones, thank you for your constant support over the past few years. Thank you for laughing with us, crying with us, and celebrating all of our wins. We would not be here today without you, and we are eternally grateful for all that you did to support us. Next, I would like to thank all the faculty and staff members. You've taught us, supported us, and watched us grow over the last few years. From greeting us with a smile on our worst days to helping us work through complex legal issues, you have all shaped our experience here at HLS. Thank you for your endless encouragement and support. Last, but certainly not least, I would like to thank the class of 2024. Watching us grow as a community has been nothing short of amazing. We've come a long way from our early law school days, and I am incredibly grateful that I got the chance to get to know many of you over the last few years. I am inspired every day by your humor, your dedication, your kindness, and your ability to fight courageously for what is right. I hope that you are proud of yourself today, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Now, I would like to introduce our next speaker, the president of the Harvard Law School Association, Lindsay Breedlove. Ms. Breedlove graduated from Georgetown University cum laude with a Bachelor's of Art in Government and Psychology. In 2009, Ms. Breedlove graduated from Harvard Law School cum laude with her Juris Doctor. Upon graduation, Ms. Breedlove served as a judicial clerk for the Honorable Deborah Cook on the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit, and as a judicial clerk for the Honorable LaGrone Davis on the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Today, Ms. Breedlove serves as the Senior Director at Ultragenyx Pharmaceutical, a Bay Area biotechnology company that specializes in rare and ultra-rare diseases, where she oversees the company's litigation and investigations, serves as general counsel for the Asia-Pacific region, and advises North American business units regarding regulatory and legal risks. Please join me in giving Ms. Breedlove a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm here finishing my term as the president of the HLSA. It's a 2-year term, and so I had the privilege of giving remarks at last year's class day as well. I had just had a baby, I had taken a red eye from San Francisco, and I had never used a teleprompter before. And so I felt pretty darn good for just getting through that speech. But I have to admit to all of you that I made a big mistake. The class of 2023 had started HLS in the fall of 2020 on Zoom. They did their entire 1L year remotely without the camaraderie that being in physical proximity provides. A year ago, on a sunny May afternoon, just like this, although it was slightly less hot, COVID was not on my mind, but it was on the mind of the graduates. And as I was explaining to them how they should feel like they belong to our alumni community already, I'm pretty sure that at least a few of them thought, how the heck does she know what it feels like for me to belong? I learned from that mistake. Before writing this speech, I watched a beautiful video on YouTube about HLS in the fall of 2021, just as the school welcomed students back to campus. Nearly all of the pictures were taken outside, where you all looked way too happy. You also have really cute dogs. I realized a few frames in that the outdoor smiles were because the mask mandate was in effect indoors, coloring the experience of the JDs here. And while I don't have nearly enough time to dive into challenging topics today, I can certainly appreciate that this past year, including the events in Israel and Gaza, and the reverberations around the world and on this campus, have also been incredibly difficult to experience. As much as I sympathize and empathize, I didn't have those experiences or challenges when I was a student here. And so how in the world could I convince you that you should feel like you belong to our alumni community when our experiences were so different? What I have found in my 15 years as an HLS alum is that practicing law is incredibly rewarding, but it is also really hard. And when I've needed support from outside my firm or company, I've found it from the community of HLS grads in different pockets around the country and the world. The common experiences of all HLS students, the friendships, the paths of self-discovery, the commitment to making the world better, and your dedication to justice, those shared memories and values are the meaningful glue that create a feeling of belonging for all of us. And I'd be remiss not to mention that so many other classes have also experienced challenging times. Ann Kirby, a member of our alumni community who celebrated her 95th birthday last month in the WCC, was in the first class of female graduates in 1953. Probably pretty rough. My successor as HLSA President, Judge Yvonne Campos, graduated in 1988, the year after HLS was labeled the Beirut of legal education because of the way that the battle over critical legal studies was tearing the campus apart. To me, that sounds daunting. All of the recent grads on campus in 2021 experienced an incredible threat to the rule of law on the January 6th Capitol attack. Also not a walk in the park. So we don't just have the easy things in common after all. We have a wealth of HLS and postgraduate highs and lows to lean on and learn from together. This community is yours to share right now and for the rest of your lives. The Harvard Law School Association has more than 40,000 members around the globe. It's free, and there's nothing you need to do to join. And I promise that there are alumni out there waiting to welcome each of you with open arms, whether you find them at a local club in a city or country of your choice, or a shared interest group like the Women's Alliance, the Latino or Black Alumni Networks, or the Recent Graduates Network. I could have spent my entire time here quickly listing all the engaging alumni communities, let alone beginning to sing their praises. But the bottom line is that you all belong already because you're sitting here today, but you will also feel like you belong because of all of our shared experiences. Congratulations to the class of 2024. I'm excited to call all of you peers, and I hope one day to also call you my friends. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Carlos up to the stage to provide the next remarks.
Good everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to Harvard Law School. And as well, thank you for being here in such a warm day, especially to wear a suit. My name is Carlos Guerrero Alarcón. I am a Mexican LLM student and one of the 2024 class marshals. Today, it is an honor for me to announce the recipient of the 2024 Suzanne Richardson Staff Appreciation Award, Pam Bennett. Events Operations Coordinator at Harvard Law School since 2022. Pam is in charge of every single student-organized event in HLS, as most of us know, a seemingly unsurmountable task. However, thanks to her incessant efforts and the unwavering support of the Harvard Law School staff, dozens of student organizations and journals successfully hosted 1,266 events during this academic year, attracting global thought leaders and world-renowned threat practitioners to our campus, enriching the academic dialogue that makes Harvard Law School a global leader in legal education. After having the pleasure of collaborating with Pam throughout the academic year, Pam taught me that quality is not an act, it is a habit. This is one of the countless lessons that Pam Bennett taught me, and I would like to share a couple more with you. First, love what you do and do it as if you loved it. When you do what you love, you will be the best in your field, or at least you will be much better at it than anyone else who does not. Pam showed me that enthusiasm and sincere commitment to the task at hand and those involved are the keys to any successful undertaking. We can all agree that people are always good company when they're doing what they really enjoy. And Pam is always good company. Second, it is amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit. Real teamwork manifests itself in shared results, to the extent in which common efforts are so inherently intertwined that trying to distinguish between the deeds of each person involved would be a doomed effort. Every day, working with dozens of students pursuing their passions, Pam makes it clear that real integrity is doing your best in spite of the possibility that no one may know whether you were the one who did it or did not. Last but not least, and as Winston Churchill once said, attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. Pam is not only a tremendous problem solver, but a problem solver who will always do her job with a smile. We can all agree that your attitude has an impact on the quality of your work and those who surround you. If you leave the room not only having done your job, but also making people's day a bit more pleasant, you will have succeeded twice. Pam always succeeds twice. As we, the Harvard Law School class of 2024, head into the professional world, having Pam's example in our minds is one of the most precious gifts this institution could have given us. Dear Pam, congratulations and thank you. Thanks to you, Pam.
Thank you so much. What an incredible honor it is to receive this award just by doing something that I love to do each and every day and is truly just me being me. All I can say is a huge thank you to the students that make this place so amazing. You make this old lady feel so young and involved. I know how prestigious this award is, and the dedicated people that have received it before me were forces of nature. But I'm semi in charge of this shindig and that you're attending, and I don't have a lot of time to sit up here and brag about myself. But with more than 150 student organizations, journals, and SPOs, I have come to know so many of you. The phone calls at all hours of the day, that's okay. The emails over the weekend, I'll answer them. You forgot you needed a meeting room for a small group of 80 people starting in 2 hours? No problem. Your speaker canceled, what should we do? We can figure it out. You need to use a skill saw in the Austin basement. Make sure to wear safety goggles and don't tell anybody. You all know who you are, and I love each and every one of you. The ones that have brought me baked goods and other treats, I may love you a little bit more. But in all seriousness, it doesn't matter your age, your political stand, your race, who you love, or what you believe in. I love you all the same and would bend over backwards to help you out. Being lucky enough to be working with the students, I feel like I'm a part of history. I have met some incredible people in the last 18 months. It is amazing that with a phone call from a Harvard Law School student, the individuals that just show up at this place for a 45-minute lunch meeting. I have met politicians, heads of state, sports stars, actors, authors, and more, and all because you have invited me as if I belong there as part of your group. I take the role of fairy godmother very serious. Short, round, and maybe a little flighty, but trying to do anything in my power to make you and your organization successful, happy, and sometimes throwing in a little bit of magic to make sure that everything works. For those of you who need me, you know I will still have the same phone number and email, and if something comes up and you can't figure it out, or you just need a mom to talk to, I will always be there for you. I feel so lucky to have found this job. My director, Stacy Goodwin, was a caller and my leader at a previous job, and I am so glad that I followed such a true friend to HLS. The team I work with is small but mighty. Kathleen, Marie, Angelica, and especially my cellmate, Kara, I am lucky to have found some great friends among the people I'm honored to sit with every day. The amount of events this team is responsible for each year is mind-blowing, in the thousands. And each one of them is worked to perfection, not only by the events team, but our catering team, ITS, and the custodial staff. I am proud to call all of them my friends, not just coworkers. Harvard Law School is a strong community, and I can't do my job without every department in this school. If it's trying to move spaces around for those pop-up meetings and begging the registrar for help, making sure the city says it's okay to host the greatest show on earth with the help of facilities, finding out who is allowed to book the meetings with new organizations that seem to just pop up each week from SEEB, and I could keep going on forever. But as I have mentioned, there is the remainder of class day to make sure it runs smoothly and start to prepare for the incredible day tomorrow so you all graduate. So I soon need to say goodbye and run off stage because there are so many things to get done. As one of the most important people in my life, my mom has always taught me, just be the best version of yourself and everything else will fall into place. Everyone will not always like you, but you will find a group of people that will love you for who you are, and then you know you are home. Well, I have finally found my work home at Harvard Law School, and as I tell people all the time, and to so many of you, I love my job. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart that swells with pride when I see my students making a difference in this world. Congratulations, class of 2024. Oops. Oh. Just one more thing before I run off stage. I can't believe that I've actually been talking for close to 4 minutes, and I have not mentioned that the most important person in my life, my son Michael, is a pilot. I bet nobody here knew that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam. That speech was beautiful, and this is really one of the biggest law schools in the world, I'm just realizing. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saleh Ismail, and I am one of the class marshals for the class of 2024. The 2024 Albert M. Sachs Paul A. Freund Award for Teaching Excellence recognizes a single faculty member each year for teaching ability, attentiveness to student concerns, and general contributions to student life at Harvard Law School. I am honored to present this award today to Professor Christine Desan. Professor Desan leads the program on the study of capitalism at Harvard University. She has dedicated her career to studying what capitalism means and its ties to economic productivity, as well as empire and the troubling wealth inequality we see today. At HLS, she teaches constitutional law, money, and the making of American capitalism, where students learn about money as a tool of governance and the constitutional struggles that have produced modern capitalism and its monetary hardwiring. Professor Desan's work also extends locally. She's on the steering committee of Massachusetts Public Banking and has co-authored legislation to establish the state's first public bank designed to support local economies and underserved communities across Massachusetts. Beyond her many academic achievements, she remains extremely committed to her students and never shies away from helping students in need. I met her after taking her reading group on Money and Empire, where I saw firsthand her willingness to seriously engage with students' views and challenge us when appropriate. I'd like to end by sharing a quote from a student who nominated Professor Desan, where they remarked, "There were times that I was unsure that my brain was suited for law school, and I relied on Professor Desan's confidence and example to reassure myself that I could get through. I can't imagine what law school would be like without her." Please join me in presenting the Albert M. Sachs Paul A. Freund Award for Teaching Excellence to Professor Christine Desan.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to the amazing class of 2024. I want to start where you did, which was with masks in your 1L classrooms. It's worth thinking about that. You couldn't see each other's faces. It was like a bad sci-fi movie, right? Somehow you transcended that moment. You learned an enormous amount. You built strong bonds with each other, maybe stronger for that adversity. And I would say that given how this ends, that we graduate you, unfortunately, into a very troubled world, it's great that you learned so much and built such strong bonds. There's much work to be done. We desperately need your help. It's no easy task, but we've seen, we've documented, and today we celebrate your enormous capacity, your energy, your work, and your talents. So many, many congratulations. I also want to yes. Second, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This award means an enormous amount to me. Perhaps more because I've been teaching 30 years. You could say I didn't peak early. But some projects are worth a lifetime effort, and teaching has been that project for me. I'm standing here alone, but I didn't get here by myself. This award recognizes a collective effort. Susan Smith is my co-conspirator at Harvard Law School. As my students know, she is a staff administrator par excellence, a real godsend to the students, a collaborator of many years. Also essential to this effort were an epic team of teaching assistants, from the first teaching assistant I ever had, Nadav Orion Peer, who taught me an enormous amount, to the teaching assistants who were here when you were here. And they were Shanoy Das, Dan Rohde, Matthias Petal, and Ignacio Oriano Garcia. Finally, I am buoyed every day and in soul-saving ways by my family, by my mother, a life force, my sister Suzanne, a brilliant teacher, my brother Paul, a healer, two astonishing sons, David and Jay, and my husband, who is my advisor and my anchor every day, Bob. So this award goes to many people. I have not had most of you as students. There's a large crowd of you out there. It's a bit late to start now. So I thought instead of any kind of lecture, I would tell you what I've learned from you through teaching. 12 things. No, not to worry. Only 3 things. Actually, only 3 things. First takeaway from teaching. Build knowledge like a river. I was going to say, I thought about saying build knowledge like a cake, but it didn't have quite as much gravitas. And it's actually, I think, more like a river. So information flows in many forms. We seem to take it in sequentially and cumulatively and weave it together. And we can do that deliberately in the classroom, but also in the courtroom, in the conference room, in organizing efforts. We can integrate streams of material over time. In my classes, it's often history, theory, political economy, doctrine, and it often comes in many forms. So we build in streams of material that we take in as background commentary, and as we take in other kinds of sources, cases, the texts, we diagram the dynamics of institutions. We think about the debates that tie together all those sources. And when we integrate those streams of material, we get something new, something rich. The river that results is different. It's powerful. It's an amalgam that departs from all its ingredients. It has a momentum of its own. Every year, I recognize the river, but every year, the river is also novel, the product of that class. Their insights created something unique. They created new capacity and new understanding. When knowledge becomes an event so exciting, you hang around teaching for 30 years. Second takeaway from the classroom: experiment, always experiment. Every classroom is a lab, or because I'm a teacher, I would put the classroom first. I'd say every lab is a classroom, a space for experimentation. As is, in my experience, every courtroom, every meeting room, every conference, every organizing effort. I've stuck with the classroom, so I'll stick with that as an example here. But in teaching, I've used a swath of different methods. I've tried the Socratic method. I've tried the Socratic method with panels. I've lectured. I've had freewheeling discussions. One year, I institutionalized a method called mandatory volunteering. That was a civil procedure class that included Katie Porter. It was a fascinating class, but the mandatory volunteering part was a bit of a bust. I've written up 100 different exercises. As Sally said, I teach about monetary and financial institutions and how they come about. So one year I thought I should really write an exercise about bimetallism, which was an important, extremely important institution in the 19th century. So I wrote up an exercise about bimetallism, and it sent the entire class over the edge. It is true that Anthony Trollope once wrote, "There are 3 roads to madness: love, ambition, and the study of bimetallism." So we skipped bimetallism for the last few years. Here's what experimentation feels like in the classroom. Every time it feels like a risk. You never know if you've asked the question that will open up the right issue. You never know if you can orchestrate the most effective discussion. You never know if you can build from that discussion to the doctrinal development or the constitutional change you want to illuminate. But while it feels like a risk, and I've had my share of missteps, bimetallism, for example, in fact, the real risk is that other way of teaching was tapped out. That other way of teaching didn't work as well as it should. That other way of teaching left students in the cold. Which brings me back to the places you will go with law. Like the classroom, the point in every courtroom, in every brief, in every organizing effort, the point is to communicate. So I would say experiment, always experiment, in the interest of better communicating. Try the change and pack the results into your river of learning. Last takeaway, along with building knowledge like a river, along with experimenting, always experimenting, we might call the final takeaway the McCulloch rule. Remember McCulloch? John Marshall was right about one thing. As my students know, I have some reservations about many of his opinions, but he was right that the means are where the action is. When he empowered Congress to use all necessary means, he gave Congress a power that he called comprehensive. And that's right, right? In fact, our lives happen in the means, even and ever on our way to the ends. The means are what we practice, the means are what we experience, the means are where we live. I've been obsessed with means for a long time. I got my start at HLS teaching civil procedure because civil procedure was the means of resolving disputes. I then moved to studying money and banking because they are the means we use to capture value and to mobilize resources. The means matter enormously, and so does their design, the design of the means. Teaching is also a means, and its design matters enormously. So one last example. In law school, I hated the Socratic method. And then I started teaching. And I still hated the Socratic method. I tried it for several years. I tinkered with it. I added panels. I mixed in group calls. I never really warmed to it. As I thought about it, I realized that the Socratic method, as a means, taught a particular set of lessons. To think on your feet, that's got to be good. But also to respond when spoken to impute the answer and maybe the advantage to the authority in the room, to distill learning into a bilateral exchange. I realized as I thought about it that I'm not so interested in teaching those lessons. I don't think they're the most important for lawyers, or at least there are other lessons that are as important. The lessons I was interested in teaching were to choose your moment, to take the initiative rather than answer when spoken to use your opportunity to develop those answers rather than seeking to appease the authority in the room. And rather than distilling learning into a bilateral exchange, I wanted to use the capacity of the classroom as a group, a set of minds like no other, to generate the richest debate we could manage. I'm not sure what to call the teaching method that resulted, maybe orchestrated discussion, maybe crowdsourced argument, maybe the River Way, along with the lines of my metaphor appropriate for Boston. In that method, students participate in response to many prompts. They contribute individually and in concert. We then collect the results and we attend to them, the product of many minds, a product that no one mind could have produced, but that we as a brainstorming, challenging, curious, driven, and very different set of lawyers could create. If what I say strikes you as sacrilegious, don't worry, the Socratic method is alive and well at Harvard Law School. It's just not my chosen means. So the McCulloch rule is that the means matter. They are where we live, and we should choose the means to comport with our values. In fact, I suspect I would go so far as to say that as we design the means, we design the ends. And as we redesign the means, we redesign the ends. I think that's true in life somehow. It's also true at the university level. I hope for the peaceful management of our current divisions, one that invites all voices to be heard, supports speech, and diminishes vituperation and punishment. Perhaps as we redesign our practice, we redesign the world. Thank you again for the privilege of teaching you and for the privilege of learning with you. It has meant the world to me.
Good afternoon. My name is Meredith Boak, and I am the Assistant Dean of Clinical and Experiential Education and Pro Bono Programs at Harvard Law School. Harvard Law School's Clinical and Pro Bono program has two pillars of the mission: to provide high-quality legal services to communities and clients across Boston, the United States, and the world, and to instill practical, hands-on lawyering skills and expertise to our students. Our students are the foundation of both of these goals. The truth is, as much as we hope to give to our students, they teach us as much as we teach them. They create innovative, groundbreaking legal theories. They courageously advocate for sweeping policy reforms, and they demonstrate empathy, intellect, and care for their clients. 122 of you completed more than 1,000 pro bono hours during your time at Harvard Law School. 12 of you completed more than 2,000 hours of pro bono service. And all of our clinical and pro bono students have educated us, and they have enriched their clients' lives, putting them on a different and more just trajectory. The next three students have demonstrated a particular care and commitment to their craft. The Andrew L. Kaufman Pro Bono Service Award is granted each year in honor of Professor Andrew Kaufman, who has been instrumental in creating and supporting the pro bono service program at Harvard Law School. The award is given to a JD student in the graduating class who exemplifies the pro bono public spirit and an extraordinary commitment to improving and delivering high-quality volunteer legal services to disadvantaged communities. The 2024 Kaufman Award goes to Bridget Pranzatelli. Bridget, through your thousands of pro bono hours, you've proven yourself as a thoughtful, effective, and passionate advocate who consistently puts the needs of individual clients first, while also considering needed systems change. In the Crimmigration Clinic, you volunteered as an interpreter, assisted as a teaching fellow, and excelled as a clinical student. You drafted a fantastic petition of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court, and through your tireless persistence and individual representation in bonds motions and parole cases, several people have been released from custody and reunited with their families. Outside of Harvard, you have volunteered with the Political Asylum Immigration Representation Project, visiting detention centers in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and working with family members to gather documents, answer questions, and submit applications for relief for detained individuals. At Harvard Defenders, you forged a community of mutual respect, kindness, and collaboration in your roles as team leader, intake director, and this year as executive director. In your high-quality representation of each client in criminal show cause hearings, you ensured they felt respected and well-served by their counsel. And you've been thoughtful about incorporating key issues between criminal justice and immigration that you learned in the clinic, instituting Padilla exercises at Harvard Defenders so those working with non-citizens are able to provide accurate information about the immigration consequences of their criminal cases. Through all your service, you've inspired your fellow students with your generosity and your zeal for the work, encouraging others to contribute their time and talent to pro bono efforts. Both inside and outside HLS, you've gone out of your way to find individuals in need, and your compassion and support holistically uplifts those you serve. Bridget, you are extraordinary. The David Grossman Exemplary Clinical Student Award recognizes a graduating student who embodies the spirit of the late clinical professor David Grossman and exemplifies putting theory into practice. The winner has demonstrated excellence in representing individual clients and undertaking group advocacy or policy reform projects. In keeping with the clinical teaching model, the student has been self-reflective and shown thoughtfulness and compassion in their practice and has contributed to the clinical community at HLS in a meaningful way. The award this year goes to David Paul. David, you embodied the very best of clinical education in both the Veterans Law and Disability Benefits Clinic and the Criminal Prosecution Clinic over multiple semesters. In your first semester at the Veterans Clinic, your team represented the widower of a Vietnam War veteran who had been denied survivor benefits, arguing that the Veterans Administration violated his right to due process and equal protection in their refusal to recognize the couple's commitment, despite being unable to be legally married pre-Obergefell. You built a close relationship with the client, conducted countless hours of legal research, drafted a negotiation memo, and negotiated with seasoned VA attorneys to obtain a favorable client settlement for your client. More than that, the settlement spurred wholesale reforms to VA policy on benefit eligibility for same-sex survivors of veterans, impacting thousands of LGBTQ+ families who will benefit from your work for years to come. Zealously representing individual clients, you assisted a homeless veteran battling cancer who had been wrongly denied safety net cash assistance, and you holistically counseled an elderly veteran on his estate plan, tailored to his distinct circumstances and goals, so that he now has peace of mind at the end of his life. In the criminal prosecution clinic, you were first chair in 6 trials in the Ayer District Court, including 4 jury trials. In preparation for each case, you applied the theoretical principles learned across evidence, criminal procedure, and trial advocacy. Your meticulous, unflinching, creative, and caring advocacy resulted in often life-changing trajectories for your clients, while always respecting their dignity and agency. Your pursuit of justice for those who have been wronged and who lack a voice is very much in the spirit of David Grossman. Congratulations, David. The winner of the Ralph D. Gantz Access to Justice Award is Arjun Gananathan. This award honors the late Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court Chief Justice Ralph D. Gantz in recognizing a graduating student who is dedicated to advancing access to justice and racial equity and has demonstrated leadership in helping to eliminate systemic barriers to justice. Arjun, you are honored for your thoughtful and empathetic leadership in the Youth Advocacy and Policy Lab and the Criminal Justice Institute. You've demonstrated an unwavering commitment to examining and interrogating the criminal legal system and the carceral system through a lens of racial equity from both sides of the table, working in the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office Child Protection Unit and as a full-year student at the Criminal Justice Institute. You've displayed compassion and dedication in both your advocacy of each and every client and in your community engagement with colleagues and peers in the classroom. As part of the Youth Advocacy and Policy Labs Fellows Program, you've engaged in a writing group on children and the law, mentored first-year law students interested in the field, and organized an event on juvenile justice public defense practice. In class discussions pertaining to racial and criminal justice, one nominator noted that you brought a sanctity to the conversation, demonstrating to peers how to respond to serious injustices with respect. You secured courtroom victories for clients of CJI by building relationships with clients and understanding the intricacies of their cases. You successfully argued for a mother's pretrial release so she would not be separated from her young special needs son. You also negotiated a pre-arraignment diversion to prevent the creation of a permanent criminal record for your client. You volunteered with the Mississippi Delta Project, where your projects involved the legacy of discrimination against black farmers in Mississippi and juvenile diversion programs as an intervention to reduce recidivism. And you also worked with the Prison Legal Assistance Project and at the California Attorney General's Office. These varied and disparate roles demonstrate your efforts to learn about race and justice in multiple contexts and from many perspectives. Not only have your clients benefited from your advocacy, the HLS community has learned so much from your example. You have a unique ability to see both sides of a complex problem and imagine a more just system by seeing the humanity in everyone. Congratulations, Arjun.
All right, good afternoon. I know it's hot, but good afternoon. Let's try that again. Good afternoon. Woo. All right, much better. I'm Stephen Ball, the Dean of Students, and one of the greatest joys that I've had in the roughly 2+ years that I've been in my role is getting to know many of today's Class Day honorees. In fact, I can't believe that time has zoomed by so quickly, and we're here today on this warm May afternoon, just 24 hours away from their graduation. As others have said, through the ups and downs of early post-pandemic life, these students made profound impacts on each other, impacted HLS as an institution, and even impacted the world beyond. So seeing this group of honorees move on is very bittersweet. And that's because, as all of their family and friends assembled here know, they truly are an amazing group of people. One that will be missed here on campus, even as they excitedly go off to start the next chapter of their lives. But in this moment, instead of looking ahead, it's most important to look back. We're here to acknowledge the enormous contributions that today's honorees specifically made to Harvard Law School in their brief time on campus. Collectively and individually, they built community, demonstrated leadership, and enriched the student experience. Each of them leaves a powerful legacy at HLS for which all of us are grateful. And I also want to say that we thank you, loved ones and friends, for entrusting us with the well-being of these phenomenal human beings during their time in Cambridge, where it's always 88 degrees and sunny like this and beautiful. And seriously, we do appreciate your support throughout their journey. Harvard Law School was made better through the presence of today's honorees, just as many other parts of our world will be in the years ahead. But they would not have made it here today without you. So now, it's my great pleasure to introduce the class of 2024's honorees to you. And we will start with the William J. Stuntz Memorial Award for Justice, Human Dignity, and Compassion. In 2011, the HLS community lost a beloved colleague, mentor, and friend. William Stuntz, a renowned scholar of criminal justice, died sadly after a long battle with cancer. I personally had the pleasure of being in Professor Stuntz's criminal procedure class when I was a student here, and I do recall how much I enjoyed it. Professor Stuntz's influential scholarship over the past 3 decades addressed the full spectrum of issues related to criminal justice and procedure, from the overcrowding of prisons to racial disparities in incarceration. In his decade on the Harvard Law faculty, Professor Stuntz touched the lives of so many of our students. He was also a recipient of the Sachs-Freud Teaching Award in 2004, along with Professor Desan. And in his honor, the law school established the William J. Stuntz Award to recognize the graduating student who, in their time at Harvard Law School, has demonstrated an exemplary commitment to justice, respect for human dignity, and compassion. Now, unfortunately, Mrs. Ruth Stuntz Smith could not be here today as she has in the past. But we are very pleased to have Bill's brother, David Stuntz, who came all the way from North Carolina to be here, and Bill's son, Andrew Stuntz, as well. So we thank them for their attendance and their support. And so the winner of the 2024 William J. Stuntz Award is Morgan Carmen. Morgan, you've been a standout leader at HLS, particularly in the area of reproductive justice. In fact, you served as president of the Alliance for Reproductive Justice, and in that capacity, you organized 2 major conferences, as well as leading the creation of a consortium across Harvard schools, and you contributed to numerous events. You also played a role in advocating for greater financial support for HLS students who are seeking public interest careers. And alongside that, you convened workshops to help fellow students develop organizing skills and ideas about improvements to HLS. Additionally, your passionate advocacy took you beyond Harvard's campus and into the surrounding community. You courageously spoke before Cambridge City Council and ultimately achieved success in persuading them to issue a resolution concerning HLS's curriculum. And in fact, that resolution is sitting in my office on my desk. They sent me a copy of it. And as you were engaged in all this work, others took notice, including your classmates. Now, one of them writes, and I quote, "Of my roughly 1,700 peers in the JD program at Harvard Law School, Morgan is the one I am most impressed by. Morgan is creative, ambitious, and determined. She is intrinsically motivated, a surprisingly rare quality at Harvard Law School, a school built around extrinsically motivating gold stars and often a fear of failure. Morgan's concerned with neither the prestige of accolades nor the potential of failing, but rather for the pursuit of her passions, which are all tied to helping others. She inspires me to reach for the top of my potential, doing things that I care about, things that could maybe even improve the world. Few people have been able to inspire me to action that way before." Another classmate commented on your warmth and ability to bring levity to our community, writing, "Past her accomplishments, Morgan is a naturally warm soul, and is also one of the funniest people on this campus. She can always make me and so many others laugh. Her leadership, advocacy, and community building efforts, but also her simple presence, have made a significant and lasting impact on our campus and beyond. And while we know that we live in polarized times today, and that the law school environment can sometimes intensify polarization, Morgan, you've been noted for your ability to weigh both sides of an issue and understand the perspectives of others. A classmate captured this quality by saying, "What distinguishes Morgan from other leaders I admire is her talent for speaking in multiple registers. She is both an unwavering advocate for social justice while holding open the possibility that she and no one can know everything. The times when I have felt equivocal in my views on contentious issues, she reminded me of my core beliefs. When I have felt tribal in my commitments to one camp, she opened my mind to other perspectives. No one at HLS has been able to change and help me make up my mind more." Morgan, you've been a remarkably dedicated leader in so many facets during your time at HLS, with a pronounced emphasis on justice and compassion. For the many reasons I shared, we are delighted to honor you with the 2024 Stunts Award. Congratulations. Next, we have the David Westfall Memorial Award for Student Citizenship. This award honors the late Professor David Westfall, who taught at the law school for more than 50 years, until just before his death in 2006. David was beloved by students. At a time when many faculty were contemplating retirement, he enthusiastically volunteered to lead one of our new sections in 2002 and enjoyed terrific popularity in this role. It is fitting that we honor his memory by recognizing a student who has made significant contributions to their 1L section. Nominations for the Westfall Award were submitted by faculty, staff, and students. And our David Westfall Memorial Award honoree for 2024 is Sydney Veach. Sydney, Section 3 treasures your efforts to build community during your 1L year, which, as others have said, was just emerging from the pandemic. And so while we were still kind of in semi-pandemic mode and everyone was also settling in and adjusting to a heavy workload of 1L year, you developed what was described as a comprehensive reading calendar that showed which classes a section had and what readings were for that day. And this master tracker, as it was described by one student, was color-coded, easy to use, and created a shared sense of purpose and community. In fact, your calendar was so helpful that at least one student reported using the same format for the remainder of their law school career. So you really set a trend in motion. But your contributions to your section weren't just about impressive organization and generosity with study resources. You also lifted others up with kindness and thoughtfulness and altruism. Around Halloween and fall of 1L year, you wrote every single person in your section an encouragement card to help get them through the semester. And for folks that aren't aware, that means that she wrote about 80 encouragement cards to people that she'd only known for a couple of months. So I think that's a pretty remarkable feat. And yeah. Your hand must have been cramping really bad after that. But then when the holidays arrived, you also spearheaded your section's participation in the Angel Tree fundraiser in conjunction with the Salvation Army. And this was an initiative whereby students were assigned to buy gifts for 2 children in need. And as part of it, you also organized a party for section members to bring and wrap their gifts. So due to the momentum that you started, other sections even joined in later on. Now, reflecting on all that you brought to Section 3, one of your section mates said, quote, "Sydney has gone above and beyond to foster an environment of support, collaboration, and goodwill among our classmates." Another commented that Sydney, quote, "reminded us that we are human beings and our existence does not begin nor end with our ability to skim a case." You gotta say that to our 1Ls next year. You gotta come back and say that. And finally, one student shared, "Sydney's organizational skills, kind heart, and openness allowed for Section 3 to spend more time together and enjoy as much as we could. Moreover, Sydney did all of these things without ever holding a position on our section social committee. She believed in Section 3, and I believe that it allowed for many types of bonds to be formed informally, end quote. So Sydney, while I was not part of your section, I certainly saw your organizational prowess and warmth and good humor in your participation in this year's edition of HLS Parity. Thank you for helping to make that a success. And Sydney, for these reasons, we're delighted to present you with this year's Westfall Community Leadership Award. Congratulations. Our next award is the Frank Righeimer Jr. Prize for Student Citizenship. The Righeimer Prize is awarded annually to a graduating student in recognition of exceptional citizenship within the law school community. Faculty, staff, and students submitted nominations for the Righeimer Prize, and I'm very pleased to announce that this year's recipient is Brenna Hope Phillips. Brenna, your impact has touched so many parts of the school and its students, and it really shows in your nominations. So whether it was your leadership within Section 1 during your 1L year, spearheading the Affinity Group Council, being active in BALSA, DALSA, and Lambda, providing thought leadership on a variety of matters, and of course, your involvement in HLS Parity. You said, yeah, let's clap it up for Parity. You set a standard of excellence in citizenship that can only be described as exceptional. Heck, you even managed to share insights on fashion and other colorful topics during your visits to the Dean of Students' office. So you truly did it all. And reflecting on your contributions, nominators collectively highlighted your leadership, contagious energy, friendliness, generosity, kindness, and humor. And now I'll share just a few of the superlatives with which you were described. One nominator wrote, over the years at HLS, Brenna has shown tireless dedication to the student body's well-being and invested in making HLS better, both today and for future students. I truly don't think I know someone who knows, truly gets along with, and supports more people from diverse groups and communities in the law school than Brenna, end quote. Another commented that Brenna is, quote, incredible and a bright presence at HLS, supportive of classmates, friendly, encouraging, and a leader in every space she occupies. Another person said that on a single day in February, I saw Brenna go from having a productive AGC meeting with top administration leaders to designing the curriculum for an HLS education seminar herself, to attending a vigil for a killed queer youth and supporting others there, then working until near midnight for Parity, helping to paint props designs, resolve conflicts between fighting theater departments, solve a ticket crisis, and support her peers in a million other ways. Brenna Phillips' work should not go unrecognized, and she is the epitome of what both the Community Leadership and Citizenship Awards commend. And lastly, one faculty member remarked that, quote, Brenna emerged as a key person to talk to about anything. She has helped to build a close community among our students. She helps them and makes them feel heard. Brenna shines in any context in which I've seen her. I know that she will use her strong people skills to make this world a better place. Brenna, you've been a pleasure to get to know, and I'm honored to present you with this year's Righeimer Prize. Congratulations. Next, we have the Suzanne L. Smith Award. In 2023, Harvard Law School celebrated the career of a wonderful, kind woman who'd impacted the lives of generations of our students in her role as administrator of the Board of Student Advisors, Suzanne L. Smith. For those unaware, HLS's Board of Student Advisors, otherwise known as the BSA, operates as a student-led support organization for all of HLS's roughly 560 first-year law students. It's been around for over 100 years, and as part of the Dean of Students Office, Yvonne was the principal HLS staff member who worked with the several dozen upper-level students who serve as BSAs. Over a career at HLS, which spanned nearly 45 years, Yvonne, who I got to see earlier, I know she's out there in the crowd somewhere, hey Yvonne, helps students get the best out of themselves and others. Through thoughtful advising and mentoring, she demonstrated leadership, sharp judgment, compassion, and integrity. And because of her efforts, thousands of HLS students learned more, found more belonging in our community, mentored others, and developed as future lawyers and leaders. And after such an amazing career, it's in her honor that the Yvonne L. Smith Award was established. Now, this award, created just last year, is given annually to one graduating student to recognize outstanding contributions to mentoring, advising, and supporting other HLS students throughout the awardee's time at HLS. Faculty, staff, and students submitted nominations for the award. And I am pleased to announce that here in 2024, the first ever recipient is Bolatito Moralake Adetula. So, Tito, I have to start by saying, usually people are up there, you're here. So, Tito, I have to start by saying that based on what you shared with me the other day, you might have the record for the most family members traveling to class day and commencement. So, a warm welcome to all of Tito's loved ones who traveled from the Garden State and beyond for the trip. It's safe to say, Tito, that you wore a lot of hats during your time at HLS, and with all of them, you found ways to mentor and support other students. As an example, you served as a teaching fellow for constitutional law, the cyber law clinic, and family law. And describing your work in these roles, one nominator wrote, "Tito's passion for teaching extends beyond the classroom, as she actively encourages students to form meaningful relationships with their professors, fostering an environment where students feel empowered to engage with their instructors and can cultivate the confidence needed to explore their curiosities and passions." In addition, Tito, you served as BALSA's Social and Cultural Affairs co-chair, and through this role, one nominator wrote, you sat on 7 unique panels, all with the aim of supporting younger generations of BALSA members. And of course, Tito, who can forget that you also served as president of the BSA? Yeah, clap it up. In this capacity, one of your nominators wrote that Tito, quote, demonstrated exemplary leadership and advocacy skills. She has tirelessly worked to foster an inclusive and supportive environment within the BSA community. And this tireless work includes, among many other things, collaborating with our very own Dean Boak here, who herself is a fellow former BSA president, to develop the student advice and tip session for last year's Day Zero program, which focused on HLS's first-generation law student community. Tito, summing up your efforts, one nominator wrote, "I don't think people know how much time and energy Tito pours into supporting the people around her. Personally, I know that for every moment I see, there are a million that I don't. Tito doesn't talk about the many ways she's supporting the people around her, she just does it." And lastly, another of your admirers observed, from her first moments on the HLS campus through today, Tito has committed herself to mentoring and lifting up her fellow students and advisees. Yvonne Smith's legacy would be well served by awarding the first Smith Award to Tito. Tito, I will miss you, and our shared appreciation of Section 5, the best section, obviously, our friendly banter, and your shared appreciation of New Jersey pizza. So I am honored to present you with this year's Smith Award. Congratulations. All right, next we have the Dean's Awards for Community Leadership. Students receiving these awards have contributed time and energy to making the HLS community a better place through involvement in student organizations, community service groups, and individual efforts. Nominations for the Dean's Awards were submitted by faculty, staff, and students. I ask the awardees to stand and remain standing until I've read all the names. And I kindly ask the audience to refer to the activities listed for each honoree in the program. The recipients for you were ready, Erica? You were getting ready? Yeah? Almost there. Almost there. I know it's hot. Almost there. The recipients of the Dean's Awards for Community Leadership are Saeed Ahmoud, Carlos Enrique Guerrero Alarcón, Travis Frederick Cabell, Erica Newman Correa, Apurva Dixit, Nicholas Gonzalez, Samantha D. Maltese, Marcos Christopher Roger Mullen, Vincent Chimobi Okonkwo, Scarlett Sun Park, Kehinde Ojamola Takuro, Mohini Tangri, Scott Xiantao Huang, Angela Yuen Wu, let's give one more hand for all of our honorees. So this concludes the awards portion of our program. Congratulations once more to all of our honorees. And now, I am happy to turn the microphone over to my fellow Michigan native, shout out to Michigan, Gigi Lucas Narcisse, who will introduce our Class Day speaker.
Good afternoon, class of 2024, friends, family, and loved ones. I'm Genevieve Lucas Narcisse, and I'm yet another class marshal here to represent the Harvard Law School class of 2024. Unlike the others, I have the unique and immense honor of introducing our 2024 class speaker, United States Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland. There are so many lessons that I have taken from Secretary Haaland's journey to the Department of the Interior. Her path to higher education began at the age of 28 when she enrolled in the University of New Mexico. She gave birth to her child 4 days after graduating with her bachelor's degree in English in 1994. I'm already tired from this graduation, so I can't imagine how she did it. After she graduated, she found herself a single mother experiencing housing and food insecurity. However, she did not let that stop her from starting her own small business, producing and canning Pueblo salsa, and pursuing and attaining her law degree in 2006 from the University of New Mexico School of Law. Clap, clap. Secretary Haaland has always embraced her roots. As a proud member of the Laguna Pueblo tribe and a 35th generation New Mexican, she has made history repeatedly. She became the first woman elected to the Laguna Development Corporation Board of Directors. She was the first Native American woman to be elected to lead a state party. She was one of the first Native American women elected to serve in Congress, and now is the first ever Native American to serve as a cabinet secretary. A true woman of firsts. So when we, as class marshals, were brainstorming who we wanted to invite to speak at graduation, Secretary Haaland was an obvious choice. Her biography resonated with all of us. Her perseverance, dedication to her community, legal acumen, and the fact that she hasn't paid off all her student loans yet, were all qualities that many of us here today share and hope to cultivate in the future, though hopefully not the loans. We should all take one final lesson from Secretary Haaland. Whatever we do after graduation, in the legal field or beyond it, we should use our law degrees as she did, to break barriers and open doors of opportunity for future generations. Based on my experiences here at HLS, all the amazing people I've met, cherished, and learned from, I'm sure it won't be a hard lesson for all of us to learn. After all, we all made it through Civ Pro. So, without further ado, please help me give a very warm welcome to United States Secretary Deb Haaland.
We're finally at this stage. So the end is near, friends. But when I ran my first marathon, they told me whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So all that sun out there, it's going to make you stronger. Guatsi haupa, duhinome etsatuitsa shuimi hanu. And hello, class of 2024. Interim Dean Goldberg, Dean Ball, Assistant Dean Boak, Alumni Association President Breedlove, faculty, staff, students, families, and guests. I am honored to join you for this most important milestone in the lives of these students. Thank you for the invitation to be a part of this special day. I acknowledge that we are on the ancestral homelands of the Massachusetts people. I also acknowledge the generations of ancestors who stewarded these lands beginning thousands of years prior to European colonization. They persevered so that I could be here with you today. Thank you, Genevieve, for that kind introduction, and congratulations. Congratulations to all of you. I know what it's like to be in your shoes. My law school experience was difficult, but also fulfilling, and I was so happy when it was over. So yes, today, pat yourselves on the back and celebrate this wonderful accomplishment, and tomorrow, there is work to be done. Whether you have a job lined up or plan to pursue another degree or simply want to take a beat to figure out next steps, please know that the knowledge and street smarts you have acquired at this historic institution are meant for one thing and one thing alone: to help move our communities and our world forward, because that is what this era of our country requires of all of us. When I graduated law school, the future and its uncertainties seemed vast. After several decades, 2 degrees, representing New Mexico in Congress, and now serving the American people at the pleasure of the President, I've learned that while uncertainty may be the only thing that can be guaranteed, your commitment to helping others and leaving the ladder down for future generations is what creates your path ahead. To be honest, thinking about my own journey reminds me that institutions like the federal government and higher education were not built for people like me. The fact that I stand here as the first Native American cabinet secretary in our country's history is, in a word, remarkable. But I don't see it as my personal accomplishment. It's one that many indigenous peoples over countless generations worked and sacrificed for. I am here because of them, and I never forget that it's because of their enduring commitment to survival against so many odds that I stand before you today, which is good because I have a lot to say. Our lived experiences create the backbone of who we are, what we bring to the table, and the path we will blaze. To every student here today, your lived experience matters. The question is, what will you do with it? I didn't start my college education until I was 28 years old. I grew up in a home without any college degrees, although my parents were public servants throughout their careers. At school, I seemed to get lost in the ether, and my high school counselors and teachers simply never encouraged me to apply. I eventually enrolled at the University of New Mexico School of Law years later, but because I had spent time at a graduate program in California, the law school charged me out-of-state tuition, adding an additional $18,000 onto my first year. As a single mom, this was devastating news, but with hardship comes innovative ideas. That experience inspired me to get a bill introduced and passed in the New Mexico State Legislature that gave enrolled members of New Mexico tribes in-state tuition, regardless of their residency. I argued, among other points, that Native Americans never lose their residency with their tribes. Unfortunately, the new residency designation that I worked so hard to enact was not retroactive. And so, yes, I am still paying off my student loans. But thank goodness for forbearance, right? My lived experience and perspective, even early in my career, mattered and made a tangible difference for Native American students who needed barriers removed so that they had the opportunity to succeed. I challenge each of you, what will you do with yours? Your perspectives matter to your family and to your people, especially if your people haven't always had a seat at any decision-making table. It is right and just for you to speak up in a room, around a table, in a legal document, or in a courtroom to ensure their voice is heard through you. As you leave your law school years behind and enter your next chapters, always remember to work hard and never let fear stop you, no matter what you pursue. If you're graduating today, you're already fearless. 3Ls should feel empowered because you have endured and maybe even enjoyed bouts of the Socratic method, moot courts, real-time legal experience while in clinic. Many of you may also have dedicated significant time doing pro bono work for various important causes. That fearlessness to tackle something new without holding back applies to everything now, especially in the context of defending what you know is right. As some of you may know, I ran for Congress in 2018. I faced a 6-way primary election, and it took all I had to walk, talk, and write for nearly 18 months straight. I was the candidate, and no one else could stand in for me. I had to show up each day with a smile and, quite frankly, with a prayer. A lot of people didn't think that as a Native woman, I'd win my primary, much less a general election. but anything worth having is worth working hard for. And my hard work proved a lot of people wrong. Yours will too. Through each of these lessons, I've been reminded time and again that every job is important. I mentioned earlier that I started college when I was 28. Between graduating from high school and my late 20s, I worked. I went from part-time to full-time at a local bakery. Alongside me, keeping the bakery humming, were the bakers, the dishwashers, delivery truck drivers, and farmers who made our operation possible. No one in this world does anything alone. At the Department of the Interior, I lead more than 60,000-person staff that crisscrosses our nation and even our globe. My job and the places it takes me reminds me time and again that community has always been and will always be everything. While visiting my ancestral homelands of Chaco Culture National Historical Park in northeastern New Mexico, I learned that between 850 and 1150 AD, Pueblo Bonito, Chaco's largest great house, was constructed with an estimated 100 million pounds of stone. I pictured hundreds of Pueblo peoples gathering stones, making the mud mortar, and hauling water to make it all possible. No one at any point in time has accomplished anything alone. Lean into the beauty of community. At the department, this has rung true repeatedly as we have advanced our administration's mission to tackle the greatest challenges of our lifetimes, including the climate crisis. The things we have achieved have been because of close partnership and collaboration with our legal teams, which at Interior are referred to as solicitors. Late nights, long documents, new policies, old litigation. All of it has the fingerprints of dedicated lawyers who have committed themselves to public service. I share a few of these areas of progress because I believe that many of you have the desire and commitment to serve the American people as they do. At the very top of our priority list is the transition toward a clean energy future. We pursued this since day one of this administration, and I'm deeply proud that the department is playing a leading role. We're doing this through approval of dozens of new renewable energy projects on our nation's public lands that are bringing affordable, clean energy to millions of households. To date, we've permitted an historic 25 gigawatts of onshore clean energy from solar to geothermal to new transmission lines, stretching from California to Arizona to Wyoming, with more under review. That's enough to power more than 12 million homes. Using the power of our ocean, we are building an entirely new offshore wind industry. To date, we've approved the nation's first 8 offshore wind energy projects, enough to power 4 million homes, with more on the way in the coming months. When we see nature as our ally and really act like nature is our ally, we can accomplish tremendous progress for our climate, our planet, and the communities that depend on these natural spaces to thrive every day. For example, expansive restoration progress is taking place across a landscape iconic to the American West, the sagebrush steppe ecosystem. Spanning over 175 million acres, sagebrush country contains biological, cultural, and economic resources of national significance. It's home to more than 350 species, including pronghorn, elk, mule deer, and greater sage grouse. America's sagebrush ecosystem is the largest contiguous ecotype in the United States, comprising 1/3 of the landmass of the lower 48 states. But in the last 20 years, half of this area has been lost due to climate change and habitat destruction. Our Sagebrush Keystone Initiative combines community-led conservation with federal partnership to defend and grow the core for future generations to steward. Our keystone initiatives, from grasslands in Appalachia to drought and wildfire, are sweeping and expansive by design, but at the heart of the framework is collaboration, because we aren't going to get anywhere meaningful if we don't bring every partner to the table. That partnership must include Indian tribes, indigenous peoples. Indigenous knowledge incurred over millennia informs how we build a better world. That extends to how our team addresses the wrongs of the past and how we correct harmful policies and decisions that were designed to eradicate Native peoples. When I announced the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative, I didn't realize that it would become a core legacy issue for our department. Our goal was noble and mighty: to unravel the intergenerational trauma that has plagued our communities since the start of this horrific era. An era that saw Indigenous children, including my grandparents, torn from their families and taken to government-sponsored schools that stripped them of their languages, their cultures, and their lifeways. This is the first time the federal government has researched the details of these schools, the children who attended, and the funding that impacts that assimilation policies had on the children, their families, and their larger communities. I have traveled across the country to bear witness to the many survivors of the boarding school era, to give them space to share their stories, shed their tears, and to know that they are seen and heard. We have so much more to do to reconcile this painful chapter in our nation's history, but our progress is real. The department has also made critical improvements to the implementation of laws like the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, passed over 3 decades ago. The law aims to return sacred objects and the remains of our ancestors to the communities from which they were stolen. Stolen from digging up graves of our ancestors, from sacred sites, from people's homes and lands. Despite this essential charge, the law has too often been under-prioritized by universities and museums, including the Peabody Museum right here on campus. In December, though, we announced a final rule that streamlines requirements for institutions to inventory and identify these items, increases accountability, and prioritizes tribal consent. Already, several, including Peabody, are changing the policies and procedures that govern this work. I'm grateful that now, thanks to this collaborative effort, tribes can be reunited with their cultural property and finally lay their ancestors to rest. These are just some of our department's milestones, wins for our climate, our lands and waters, and the communities who depend on these resources every single day. It might be hard to picture the people behind these successes. Well, the fact is, they look like you. Each of you have more power than you realize. You're Harvard Law graduates, for goodness sakes. You have the power to build off these accomplishments and to continue moving our country toward the sustainable, ethical, plentiful future we know is possible for everyone. I know for a fact you're all powerful because Harvard Law graduates and former faculty have helped lead our momentous efforts at the department since day one. Nowhere is that clearer than the work we are doing in Indian country. Guiding us in our work is the solicitor, Bob Anderson. For over a decade, Bob was the Oneida Indian Nation visiting professor of law here at Harvard Law School. His contributions to our team have inspired us all, but one accomplishment in particular is close to my heart. Last year, the Supreme Court stood behind the Indian Child Welfare Act, or ICWA, ending a lawsuit against our department and me that challenged keeping on-reservation child adoptees with their tribes. This was a legal precedent informed by the violent boarding school legacy I spoke of earlier. The horrific impacts of this legacy are more prominent than we realize. In fact, like me, you probably know someone who has been impacted. A dear friend of mine and all 6 of her siblings were adopted out of their family and raised apart. My friend has spent the better part of her adult life working to piece together the family she should have had growing up. This important ICWA decision upheld what presidents and congressional majorities on both sides of the aisle have recognized for the past 4 decades, that Indian children belong with their families and tribes no matter what. That win played out at the Supreme Court, but behind the scenes, Bob and his team worked through countless hours to support the federal government's case that ICWA is and must remain the law of the land. Indian country breathed a collective sigh of relief when the Supreme Court announced its decision, and we have Bob Anderson to thank. Well, Bob Anderson is here with me. Professor Anderson, please stand up and be recognized. Some of the proudest moments during my tenure have come when President Biden has taken decisive action to protect the lands, waters, and wildlife that we depend on every day, and importantly, to do so hand in hand with tribal nations that have stewarded these lands since time immemorial. Many of those wins have been in the form of new national monuments designated by President Biden at the request of tribes and local communities, many of whom have fought for decades to see these protections materialize. 2 national monuments in particular stand out. Last year, President Biden created Baj Nawabjo Ita Kukveni, Ancestral Footprints of the Grand Canyon National Monument. At nearly 1 million acres, this new national monument protects ancestral homelands sacred to numerous tribal nations, including the Havasupai and Hopi tribes and the Mowapa Band of Paiutes. The president's action, building upon decades of community-led efforts, will now help protect the sacred land and its watershed from encroaching threats like uranium mining and other extractive industries. In southern Nevada, Aviquame National Monument now protects over 500,000 acres, and Spirit Mountain, the most sacred place on earth for the Mojave people. Finalizing these designation recommendations to the president took plenty of grit and dedication from our team. One of our lawyers who was absolutely central to these designations was Natalie Landreth. Natalie, our Deputy Solicitor for Land Resources and class of 2001 Harvard Law graduate, helped to ensure that these monuments will be protected in perpetuity. And she was tireless in her commitment to ensure that tribal perspectives and knowledge were honored in their designations and future management. I'm so pleased that she's here with us today. Everyone, please say hello to Natalie. When I think about the legacy our team is building, I think about entire landscapes, entire regions of our country that are benefiting from our lawyers' determination in the face of complex, often decades-long challenges. Since time immemorial, the tribes of the Columbia River Basin in the Pacific Northwest have relied on abundant and healthy salmon runs for their subsistence and for the health of their cultures. For countless generations, they've passed down their traditions and indigenous knowledge that connected their people inextricably with the river and salmon that gave them everything they needed. Yet for decades, dams built by the Westerners have cut off entire swaths of this region from the salmon that rely on the river to complete their journeys to the sea and back again. This reality threatens not just the health of this iconic ecosystem, but also the health of the communities who have long stewarded these lands and waters. Thanks to the determination and creativity of tribes and our legal team, our administration stayed decades-long litigation and has solidified a 20-year path for the Upper Columbia United Tribes to pursue the eventual reintroduction of salmon into the Upper Columbia River. These historic agreements, thank you. These historic agreements are powered by over $1 billion in funding for restoration initiatives. This once-in-a-generation progress has opened meaningful paths forward for both the salmon and the people who rely on them. It has demonstrated the very best of the federal government working for the American people. Senior advisor to the solicitor, Laura Bloomer, a 2019 Harvard Law graduate, helped us reach these historic achievements and is leading the hard work of implementing the commitments made. Generations of children will grow up with healthier waterways and a stronger connection to the lands and waters that can sustain them because of her efforts. Laura, I'm so happy you could join us today. Everyone give it up for Laura. I am so honored to call the three of you my colleagues. You are incredible, and I am forever grateful for your service. As you can see, Harvard Law graduates are doing big, exciting, and powerful things at the department. They're creating a legacy that will live on long after our tenures at the department are over, and no matter who is in charge. Let these individuals inspire you to seize your newfound power, your influence, your hearts, and your expertise, and put it to good use. Good use that will outlive each of us. Good use that will ensure future generations can live the prosperous lives they deserve. Good use that will make you proud to be a lawyer, because we can't build the world we deserve without each of you. Be grateful for the gifts in the universe that have been prepared just for you, so that you can re-gift. And remember that you are part of a community today and every day that is rooting for your success. Congratulations to the 2024 graduating class. I am so proud of each of you. Dawa, thank you. 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 You are just so kind. I am now so happy to pass the mic back to Harvard Law student. Pass the mic over to Harvard Law student Beatrice Garcia Quiroga for some closing remarks. Thank you all so much again.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Beatriz García Quiroga, an LLM student from Barcelona and one of your class marshals. After all these words of wisdom, and as the only person standing between you and the refreshments, I thought the best way to use this time would be to address the things we, the graduating class of 2024, all have in common. With over 70 nationalities among us, and a myriad of different backgrounds, this community is likely the most diverse we will ever be part of. And as this school's admissions policy is its best kept secret, it was a challenge to find the single distinctive trait that we all share. What I concluded is that we are all, besides of overachievers, people who chose to be uncomfortable. Despite what Legally Blonde might suggest, one doesn't get into Harvard Law School by accident. This school's stringent admission standards imply we all traded comfortable alternatives for an experience that has been fun, intense, and even painful at times. In one of those difficult moments, my friend Max, who is also graduating today and is actually sitting over there, told me, if Harvard has ever made you feel unsure about who you are or about what you want to do, that means it's working. His words still resonate. We didn't come to Harvard Law School to be comfortable, but because we felt like there was something worth changing, either within us or in the world. So if at some point you've questioned everything and felt uncomfortable, congratulations, that means Harvard Law School has worked. While our incredible staff and faculty make the impossible possible, I am confident the reason why HLS has worked lies in the students' willingness to embrace that discomfort that we chose for the benefit of others. I chose this school expecting to meet brilliant people. What I didn't expect was to meet so many inspiring human beings. Thank you to those of you who have ever worked to bring us exceptional speakers, to organize unforgettable events, or to otherwise strengthen our community. Your generosity and your commitment have not gone unnoticed. Thank you also to those of you who have had the courage to speak up for what was important and fair, taking big personal risks, especially this year. And thank you too to those of you who have chosen silence over speech, prioritizing the well-being of others. We learn from your humanity and your integrity. In sum, thank you to all of you for embracing discomfort to serve us, and for making our time here fun, intense, painful at times, but above all, profoundly inspiring. That inspiration we've all experienced here is why most of us feel a bittersweet taste as we prepare to leave Harvard. Here again, we all have a choice. Today marks the end of our time here together, but the inspiration we've cultivated endures in the community we've built. From now on, the class of 2024 will be what we will make of it. Remember that you have the power to make things work for us, but also for others. Class of 2024, congratulations, we did it!